Hey now, today we're going to take a look at the Ambassadors, the first expansion for Among the Stars from Stronghold Games and Artipia Games. Now, Among the Stars is a fantastic card drafting game. I reviewed it. You can watch it on my channel. It's essentially a Seven Wonders killer for me because it's card drafting but in a thematic way. You're building a space station. The story is that it takes place far, far in the future where there's this huge galactic war and all these different alien civilizations are building back up. The Ambassadors expansion lets you add a new twist into the gameplay wherein you're not just building locations, but now you have the opportunity to recruit, I guess is the right word, or to sort of lure ambassadors, that's even a worse word, lure ambassadors into your space station, put them up in fancy digs, and hopefully give you a great benefit to improve the quality of your space station over time. You also have new special locations in this set, new basic locations, and a new character race that has to do with ambassadors. So let's go ahead and take a look at the new stuff that comes inside the Ambassadors expansion. I'm not going to teach you how to play the game again. I'm just going to show you the new stuff in this set. Then we're going to come back, let you know what I think. Okay, here's most of the new stuff that comes in the Ambassadors expansion for Among the Stars. I'm not going to show you every single card, but I'm just going to show you some of the coolest ones that I like and just show you some of the new stuff. So these tokens over here, I should mention, are going to be for specific ambassadors that you have in this set. So they're only going to be used in specific instances. You have one new alien race in this set that has to do with the new ambassadors part of the expansion. They are called the Exodai. Whenever you invite an ambassador to your station, you pay 1 credit more. At the end of the game, you gain 2 victory points for every ambassador in your station. So you're obviously, if you're not using the ambassadors in your game, do not play with that alien race because it's kind of useless. You have some new achievement cards or victory point goal cards. I'll just show you a few of them. There is more than this. You have Strengthening the Alliance. 4 victory points. Be the first player to invite 5 ambassadors to your station. You have Technologically Advanced. You have it's worth 4 victory points, and you have to spend the most energy. You'll count all the energy that you had to pay for all the different locations in your station. And Long-Term Planning, 5 victory points. Build the most locations with delayed ability. Those are the yellow abilities. So those are just some of the new goals that you can work towards. Then you have new basic locations and new special locations. Let's take a look at some of those. For the blue administrative, you have Hydroponics. 5 victory points and +2 for each other hydroponics 3 or more locations away. Then you have the Escape Pods, which is pretty interesting. 1 victory point delayed ability cannot be discarded to perform an action, but you get +2 if you have 23 or more locations in your stations. Very specific. The Purple Recreational. This one's funny. The Fast Food Drive-In. 1 victory point and +1 for each location in your station that has only 1 adjacent location. And the Racetrack. 5 victory points and +2 at the end of the game if Racetrack is within a 4x4 grid of location cards. Military, for still in the basic locations. You have High Security Area. 5 victory points, and then you have all these +1s depending on whether you have no green, purple, or yellow locations within 2 of this area. Then you have the Experimental Weapon, which costs you 3 energy in addition to its 2 credits. But you get 8 victory points. If you discard Experimental Weapon and perform an action, you pay 1 credit at the end of the turn. So it really encourages itself to be built. Green locations, which is the Diplomatic. Alliance Information Point. 3 victory points, and for every Alliance Information Point already built, you pay 1 more credit and gain 1 victory point more. The Foreign Affairs Office. You get 4 victory points, and it costs you 1 less for each player with more victory points than you to a minimum of 1. And finally, for the basic cards, the, what is it, what's B stand for? Bargain hunting, whatever it is. I don't know, my mind's blanking at the moment. Factory, 5 victory points, cost 1 less for each other factory in your station. Business, that's what it is. Wow, why didn't I think of that? Shopping center, I like this card a lot. 1 victory point, but X, the number of credits you pay for it, can be any amount of credits, and you get +1 for every credit that you spend up to a max of 7. Of course, can't be that good. Let's look at some of the advanced locations. Administrative, Maintenance Department, costs you X, you get 3 victory points, and X is the number of remaining cards in your hand after you build this location. So it's better to build the later you get into the year. Archives, 1 credit, and at the end of the game, 2 credits or 2 victory points for each. 1 victory point, 2 victory points for each location between archives and the nearest empty space in your station. That requires a lot of planning on that one. Recreational, I love the recreational cards the most. I don't know why. War Monument, 7 victory points and +1 at the end of the game for each military -1. It's really hard to see there. -1 victory point for each military location within 3 at the end of the game. And I'm just throwing the cards everywhere. Library, 0 victory points, but you get +1 for each location with a delayed ability in your station at the end of the game. All right, military, Privateer Bay, 4 victory points, +1 immediately if you have more military locations in your station than any other player, +2 at the end of the game if you have more business locations in your station than any other player. And this one's the big daddy, the Dreadnought Shipyard. Costs you 2 extra energy, 8 victory points. You may not place any other location adjacent to this after you build it. And at the end, this actually counts as 2 military locations at the end of the game. So that's pretty intimidating. The Diplomatic Special Cards, Cultural Center, 4 victory points. Choose another player. That player gets 2 credits and you gain. That player gives you 2 credits and gains 2 victory points. What I should have said. Conference Room, 0, but +1 for each different race among the ambassadors in your stations. Ambassadors have races. I haven't gotten to them yet. And finally, we'll take a look at the Special Business Cards. Galactic News Network, 4 victory points. Choose another player, +1 victory point for every 3 credits that that player has. I guess it's paparazzi. Energy Lab, 4 victory points. At an additional cost, you may pay up to 2 energy to gain 2 credits for each energies paid this way. This is sort of like a weird reverse shield card from the base set. Now, let's take a look at these ambassadors and kind of explain how they work. So, when you go to build an ambassador, you build, quote unquote, to recruit an ambassador to your station. When you're drafting your card as you normally do, you typically can do 3 things with it. You can build the location in your station, you can trade it in for $3, or you can make a power reactor. Well, now you have a 4th option, and that is recruit an ambassador. You'll have a stack of the ambassador cards out. They're actually broken down by year. So this one here is a year 2 card. For years 1 and 2, you'll have access to, they're broken down into 3 sets. And so for years 1 and 2, you'll have all of the the ambassadors that say 1 on the back. And then those will be discarded and put away for good. Then you're going to have the ones that say 2 on the back, and then the ones that say 3 on the back. And you're going to swap them out between each year, and you'll always have 3 available to recruit from. Whenever one gets recruited, another one comes out of the stack to replace it from the applicable stack that you're using for that year. So you discard a location card and from your hand, and then you're going to recruit one of the face-up ambassadors. Pay whatever the cost is, the same as if you were building a location. But then you choose, every player is going to start with 5 of these bureaus. There's a bureau for every single color: recreational bureau, business bureau, administrative bureau, and so on. But you only have 1 of each of them. What that means is that at the end of the game, you can only have recruited 5 ambassadors total. And there are some ambassadors who, as part of their cost to put into play, instead of building one of these bureaus out into your station, you actually discard it from play. So you'll have 1 less location built than 1 less bureau built than the other players, or the potential to have 1 less bureau built, but you can still only have 5 of the ambassadors. And all the ambassadors do, you'll keep them in front of you, they have special effects that either happen 1 time only or will be continuous depending on the type of ambassador. So I just chose some of my favorites, the ones I thought that were most, maybe not my favorites, but the ones I thought that were the most interesting to show off. These all have a different race, which will matter for some certain special abilities. So here we have Baxalanis. You may place 1 energy on each reactor you control when you recruit this ambassador. He only costs you 0. So that's actually pretty good. Elisand here, you win all ties, which is for victory points when you're trying to go for objectives at the end. So that can be pretty important, but it may not be apparent right away. Sandra Binari, who's a Humarine, this costs 2 more to invite during the 2nd year, and you'll see why in a second. This is because you gain victory points equal to the number of green and yellow locations in your station. Arch Lycon, Count the length and width of your station and number of locations. You gain victory points equal to their distance. That's a bit of a weird one. These are the Garu Arthak or Hawk, whatever. They're all like nasty. They're all like about hurting the other players in some way, shape, or form. At the end of the turn, each player with less military locations than you loses a victory point. Here's another one of these happy fellas. X, the cost to purchase him is the number of other players. Until the end of the game, whenever another player discards a card for money, that player must give 1 credit to you. It's very nasty. It makes it very, very unappealing. This is the new race that comes in this game. This is the Exit Eye. X is the cost is the number of ambassadors you already have in your station. At the end of the game, you gain a victory point for each ambassador in your station, so it's kind of like a weaker version of that race's standard ability. And finally, we'll take a look at another Hugh Marine. This is Akira Low, 1 credit. You gain victory points equal to the number of locations of the type you have the least. So that requires a bit of planning. So remember, that's just another option that you have is to recruit these ambassadors from the lineup. I'll mention this more in my final thoughts, but the timing matters a lot because of only having a certain amount of ambassadors to pick from, and everyone might be clamoring for the same awesome ambassador. But that is, for the most part, what comes in the Ambassadors expansion for Among the Stars. Having more stuff for Among the Stars cannot possibly be a bad thing if you enjoy the base game. And if you do, this is going to be an instant purchase for you because the game is fantastic the way it is without any kind of expansion, but having more variety for a game like this is a fantastic thing. So you should already own this and you should be on your way to purchase it is what I'm trying to say if you love the base game as much as I do. If you were already lukewarm on that game, or if you didn't like it at all and you're watching this review for some reason, this isn't going to change your mind about it. The ambassadors add a pretty cool new aspect of the game and how you can spend your action on your turn, but it's still doing essentially the same thing. You're putting a new card into your play area and hoping to score points off of it. It doesn't change the game in a fundamental enough way to make a difference if you didn't already care for the game. But that's really the only major negative thing I'm going to say about it, and it's not really a negative thing, again, if you like the original game. So let's start with the simple stuff. There's new basic location cards and there's new special location cards. Special location cards are simple. Shuffle those right in and then do your typical setup of drawing a certain number of special location cards based on the number of players to set up your deck. You're good to go. And there's some pretty cool ones in this deck. You have ones like the War Memorial and the Racetrack. That's actually a basic location card, but I really enjoy the purple entertainment cards. I just think they're kind of cool. There's ones like there's experimental something or other for the military, which is pretty cool. What I'm trying to say is that there's some cards that are really kind of funky and new and feel fresh compared to the cards in the original set, and I like that. Even the basic location cards, although the basic location cards are a little more finicky because you can only have a certain amount of those, you basically have to decide whether to use all the ones from the base set or all the ones from the expansion, or mix and match different types, which could be a little bit of a pain in the butt, so you're probably just going to decide one or the other. But I like them, and it's cool to have that option of using either one. And like I said, the special location cards are easy. You just shuffle those right in. As far as there's also a new alien race that has just to do with the ambassador itself, so that's cool. Again, you have to kind of play with the ambassadors in order for that alien to matter. But it's cool that it's there. There's also new goals, the new achievements that you're vying for control at the end of the game. Again, nothing really game changing there. Now, the ambassadors, which is what this set is all about. I like the mere concept of them. I like that I have something else to do on my turn, that there's something else that I'm vying for control for. And may I say, from a component standpoint, I really like the artwork on the ambassadors. I like the art in the entire game, but I guess the art was just kind of, okay, good. I mean, not great, good. You know, I think, I don't know if it's the same artist or not, to be honest. So I guess I should have done my research on that. But the different locations and the parts of the space station just looked decent. But the ambassadors themselves look really, really cool. I really like that art style, and it adds something to the game that I think was missing, like a personality to it. That's kind of a frivolous sort of frill thing, but I like it, and I'm glad that it's there. As far as the ambassadors go, two things I should mention here, and I think they're cool overall, but two little nitpicks I'll say. First is that it adds an amount, and I know I probably overuse this word just as every board game vlogger, blogger, journalist does, but it does add an amount of fiddliness to the game that even for this game is kind of annoying, in the sense that now you must worry about timing. And it even has a whole section in the rule book for this and how you determine timing. Now, because of the ambassadors, because there's only a certain amount of them out there for everyone to vie for, and some of them, and I'll get back to this in a second, are clearly better than others, how the timing of how your turns work and who gets to take one first is incredibly important. Enough that now you have to keep track of who can actually go first. Now the rules suggest whoever has the most victory points at that time. And that's how we did it. I would actually think that in the future what I'm going to do is just keep track of turn order and have that rotate around each year. It makes more sense to me. It's a little, I guess it's a little more fair because you can still only have 4 ambassadors. So yeah, one year you might be getting some first picks, but then in another year you're kind of screwed anyway. So I think it's easier and simpler just to have a rotating turn marker. So that's one little thing. But even in the rules it says that you don't have to worry about that unless there's a conflict going on, a timing conflict. But then it's like, okay, stop. Who's getting an ambassador's turn? No one's getting an ambassador? Okay, so that's kind of irritating. The other thing is what I had just mentioned, and that's that there are some ambassadors that are clearly way, way better than others. Ambassadors that lock down people's money, that make people, basically the military ambassadors, most of them are really, really cool. Make people lose points. These types of things, they're compared to ones that just say, oh, over time you may just get 5 victory points for building these many different types of stations, or you get a discount on purchasing ambassadors in the future. Those are not nearly as good as ones that actually let you control the flow of the game and hurt your opponents. And it happened often in the couple of games that we played with this expansion, where ambassadors come out, new ones come out every year, and we're like, okay, those 2 are just okay, whatever. That one is amazing! And that happened all the time. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. I like that there's some really cool cards, but I wish there was something more of a balance. I wish that, again, when timing comes up and someone grabs that awesome ambassador, that the other players could be like, okay, I didn't get that one, but these ones are equally good. That doesn't happen a lot. But I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I like the concept of the ambassadors. I'm eager to see if more of them come out, perhaps in the next expansion, because with the game, it doesn't add any time to the game that much once you get the timing down. It sort of naturally flows into the game. Having a whole new section, but still having it work very well, having the gameplay flow pretty smoothly once you get over your first hump of learning how they interact with everything else is pretty cool. I like that you're building bureaus for them. That's a neat thing too. So again, even though you're recruiting an ambassador, you're still building your space station. And I like that because that's what I like the most about this game, is the thematic aspects of it. So I really recommend the ambassadors if you already like the base game. Like I said, it's not going to change your mind if you didn't. And I think that the finicky bits of it can be overlooked by its pure coolness and awesome artwork.